Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to our June 2025 RTD webinar. So today's subject is looking at Asset AI. This is really building off a session that we did at the state conference up at Tweed in April. So I'm going to be joined today by Nick Havyatt, who's our Asset AI project lead from our side on this one. And yeah, we'll sort of focus on a little bit as to where the project is up to, but then also looking at the councils who are using it and the benefit that they've realised through using the platform. So I'll just pass to Nick to introduce himself.
G'day all, I'm Nick Havyatt. I think looking at the slides there, a lot of people have seen me before. I've been doing the product development for Asset AI for the last couple of years and look forward to having a chat with you today about the platform.
Great, thanks Nick. I'll just go to the next slide.
Yep.
Thank you. So the agenda for today, we're going to, as I said, do a bit of a background on the project and what led us to this point, which will include, a rough overview of the platform and what's involved in it. But the main focus of today's session will be on those council benefit case studies. And these are drawn from the experiences of the councils who are using it. And Nick's certainly much more intimately familiar with this than I am. So he's the man who can speak to it and ask all those curly questions that might come out of it. We'll also touch a little bit on the next steps. So we're in a pretty active development phase at the moment, and we have plans through over the next 18 months or so that we touch on today as well. And look, we've noted the Q&A at the end, but please do, if you have questions as we're running through, feel free to ask them as you go. There's the chat and Q&A functions for this webinar that you can use, but equally, if you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you so you can actually ask the questions in person as well. So there's a few avenues for you to ask questions as we're going through. Yep, next slide, perfect. So regarding the background, look, this is probably pretty familiar to most of you who are on the call today, but obviously there's a lot of issues facing councils across the state at the moment. Councils do manage the majority of the road network. And the increased frequency of severe weather events just seems to be going ever increasing, and need to look at Mid Coast Council to sort of see the latest impact of that. That's creating a lot of pressures for councils and council engineers in particular. And traditionally, those maintenance practices or the inspections that inform those maintenance practices were sort of done on a reasonably infrequent basis, which means that you don't always capture defects as they occur or maintenance issues as they occur. And so we tend to sort of say that councils are generally quite reactive, relying on customer complaints and things of that nature to inform the status of their network. Obviously, the RTD does our asset benchmarking project, which sort of captures the status of the road network, road and bridge assets over every couple of years. The most recent reports have just been released, showing the annual shortfalls in the order of 165 million per annum. So that, again, is just another pressure on trying to maintain your roads in a good condition. So Asset AI was devised to try to address some of these issues. What we've sort of looked at is how can we use vehicles that are already on the road network and putting cameras and other sensors on them to enable them to sort of do that passive data collection for you. Asset AI is designed to sort of be vendor agnostic. It should talk to all the different systems that you may already be using and sort of integrate with them, as opposed to being a separate thing that you have to then use. And that also feeds into that flexibility of allowing you to sort of work with who you is best suited for your network. And as much as possible, we're trying to develop it as a bit of a one-stop solution. Now, the main focus has been in the maintenance space, but as we cover in that the next steps phase, there is certainly some growth in other areas that are applicable across the board for councils. Next slide, please. So in terms of the various organisations who are involved, Asset AI was an initiative from the RTD and Canterbury Bankstown Council initially. Transport or state government rather were engaged to provide seed funding for that, and Transport for New South Wales were appointed to assist at that point. They're sort of the main funding body and certainly the lead agency from a state government perspective. And then we've got 9 or 10 councils who are on board with the platform now. You can see all of them listed there below. Deloitte are the development partner, so they've been contracted in to do all of the coding and the software development. And then in terms of the data collection providers, there's 3 camera providers, so Vaisala, Retina and Shepherd, and then we have Compass IoT who are providing other data for it. Now, they're all the ones who are contracted. There is other data sources that come into the platform through various state and federal agencies, such as the Bureau of Meteorology and the TCA, which are the heavy vehicle telematics groups that are being used as a part of the platform as well. But I'll pass over to Nick now to take over the next few slides.
Thank you. So I'll talk about the platform at a bit more technical level. Again, questions along the way, happy to stop and talk to the questions. So don't feel shy to dive in. But this is a quick snapshot of the platform itself, mainly the map viewer. The idea there is you see that basically the screen fills up full of defects, and it's about how you manage those defects is the trick. A lot of these defects that get identified through the AI technology is small defects, so early intervention becomes a realistic option, but it also gets the higher level defects as well. I won't go into the detail of all the different components there, but there's a lot of functionality in that mapping to filter from a road hierarchy and severity rating, and also through you can see the screen, the type of pothole. Like if you click on the defect, you can see the pothole, get an image of it, puts a box around where the defect is, becomes fairly detailed. Couple of the different layers that we've built. We've got a road history, defect history layer, which is this one here. Most of that screen's yellow, which is hard to see through this screen here. But the idea of this is it picks up trends of where particular defects are over a 6-month period. This is just giving you an idea of how you can see what's happened in the past. So even if potholes, for example, are getting repaired regularly, it shows you basically a heat map. The sections there in red are having a high frequency of that particular defect or a pothole or a shove or a cracking, and it gives you an idea from a medium-term maintenance plan to go, okay, instead of just pothole patching, we need to do a higher intervention in these sections to address the ongoing pavement issues. Again, just trying to show the data in a different way. And then this one here is our machine learning algorithm that we've developed, which is a defect susceptibility index. So this is where Josh has touched on about the TCA data and the Bureau of Meteorology data. There's about 100 different inputs that we've pushed into a machine learning algorithm to try and build a predictive nature of where potholes, cracks and shoves could be forming. So instead of like the previous slide where we're talking about the prior 6 months and a lot of engineering is talking about the history, this is now turning attention to modelling something in the future to try and predict where it's going. So this is a first iteration of it. It was modelled using 3 councils' data sets and then applied across the whole of the state. It gives you an idea of where things are, and this sort of technology is just going to continue to evolve, and hopefully we start looking forward into the predictive nature. It takes into account 30 years worth of weather data, looks at a raft of different things, and anyone that started dabbling in the machine learning world now will understand that it's a very complex process, and it gives you some interesting facts. So it's just another way of looking at the data again. And then our latest add-on to our platform is this dashboard. This is looking at that map that we showed you a couple of slides ago, and then also bringing some different analytics and giving you a way of filtering the data in a more dynamic manner. So the data set we've got at the moment, the asset type of roadside's been selected, and that automatically adjusts the top 10 roads in that data set for its severities. You can then filter it back down based on the severity, or you can change by defect type, defect subtype. You can look at the road quality condition and do a range of different filters. Shows it all in the interactive map. You can still click on those individual defects and get the actual data for those ones, or you can export all of this data to CSV files, different reporting processes. So this is just another way of trying to find a more user-friendly way to manage the data. And so far, this went live last week. We've had some pretty good response from our councils that are on board at the moment, that this is helping filter the data faster and working out where we need to prioritise maintenance. Background, this slide deck's talking about how we normalise the data. So the road inspection manual that IPWEA wrote a few years ago is the base behind how we develop our severities. So we look at trying to standardise that across the state. It looks at the type of defect, the road hierarchy, so whether it's a highway, local road, collector road, and looks how bad the defect is. So always use potholes as an example, because it's an easy thing to people can see, visualise. Basically, what we're saying there is, if you've got a 300mm diameter pothole on a highway, you've got a shorter response time than on a local access road or a cul-de-sac that's a lower risk. So it's developing a standard risk-based approach to the way all the severity ratings are reported. So if you haven't seen that road inspection manual, I suggest you jump on our website and have a look at that one. We've touched on that one a few times on our session, so we don't need to go too deep into that one. But the next part of our discussion is more about our use cases for Asset AI. So this document is the data-driven road maintenance, which is looking at how we've used Asset AI, a bit more detail about Asset AI and how councils have used it for use cases. Again, I think Will might chuck a link to this in the chat as well if we can. That's our new publication. So I'll dive into the case studies, and we'll keep these at a fairly high level, but any questions along the way, happy to discuss these as we go. But one good example was working with some rural councils on how they go about their resealing. Their traditional method was they'd go for a long drive and have a look at different segments of road and try and work out where we can put our reseal plan. Normal challenge, we've got way too many kilometres of road that need resealing and not enough time to go and work out which is the right one to do. So we had a look at how we can use Asset AI to do that. This particular council talked to us about that, and we looked at it and said, okay, you've got about 10 roads that you want to put 2K seals on. It's about 150 Ks worth of road, and instead of going out and driving it all, regional town, you can imagine that there's a lot of kilometres to travel. We looked at it on the desktop and we worked out which sections of the road had shoulder edge breaks, cracking, potholes, shoves, any pavement defects, and then we were able to prioritise segments of those roads that should be suitable for a reseal with minor amount of repair work required. Then they went out and did a targeted inspection on just those sections. What we found is a reduction in field work. So what was previously taking 3 or 4 weeks worth of field work of driving around looking at things and not sure which way to go, they were able to reduce that time and reduce the planning required. So that analysis was a lot faster on the computer. Again, with the map, you're able to upload CSV files and DXF files, shape files, so you can upload your segments that you're actually looking for. your future reseal programs, and that makes it easier to do that assessment. So we reduced the planning time. We knew they were able to work out how much work was required, or estimate how much maintenance was required before they went in the field, which meant that they were having more confidence about what they were doing. There's a couple of councils that have done their reseal programs straight off Asset AI now, so I think that's a pretty good news story. Nice simple one. We find this pretty common in sign maintenance. How long does it take to fix a sign? Normally the guys have to get a complaint. You have to drive out there and figure out what sign it is. You have to then go back to the yard, get the signs or order the signs, and then you have to go and drive back out there and fix it. A lot of these councils now are using that we've got have got passive data collection. So if you've got the cameras on street sweepers or garbage trucks, every fortnight you're driving past these signs. Straight away from these signs, you can work out what's going on. The top photo, you can see what the problem is. You need a post, you need a sign, you know what sign. The bottom one, there's post there, but there's no sign. So amazing how much of that technology picks that up. Yes, you still got to go and figure out what sign that is, because it doesn't show you. You have a range of different ways of doing that. No different to if you have to drive out there and figure it out. But when I used to work at council, we used to get a lot of complaints about that sort of infrastructure not being maintained, and the community would whinge to the councillors. It would become a big thing. With this sort of information, there's a low amount of initial effort to work out what the requirements are, and you can go out and fix them in a more controlled, proactive approach instead of having to react to those things. Third one is we're talking about defect management and response. So one of the challenges we face is how long does it take to do the inspections and what frequency we're doing the inspections in. Some of these roads, like this unsealed road, probably only gets a maintenance grade once every year. Doesn't get a lot of inspection time because it takes too long to go and log the defects. With this AI technology, you can drive the networks more frequently, and therefore you can identify major defects and prioritise them. Again, that's the normal message that we're sending out, but if you can understand your entire network, you can prioritise your work more efficiently and not have to wait for the councillor phone call. Heavy patching programs, similar to the reseal programs. We identify shoves, heaves, block cracking, range of different types of defects. By being able to understand where they all are, it can all get prioritised. There's another council I was talking to when they just came on board, and they said, what's my biggest risk? And we talked about all the shoves that are on their network, and we're able to filter that down to high severity shoves, and looked at it and went, okay, there's 17 risks on your network. If it was 2 days per shove to go into a heavy patch program, 2 months' time, you've removed those risks. I'm probably teasing some of you to say there's only 17 shoves, but they were lucky in that respect. But same principle applies in the fact that you can prioritise it once you understand how many there are. If there's 100, you've got a bit more work to do, but at least you can understand where they are. It's prioritised based on road hierarchy and severity size. So the inspections, this is also touching on the low trafficked roads are often overlooked, and just being able to do that regular inspection. If it's not in the garbage truck or a street sweeper like some of the larger councils, even if it's just done with the inspection vehicles, the fact that you don't have to stop, the fact that you can drive at 60 to 80 kilometres an hour just makes these things happen a lot faster. And we remove that biased or that inconsistency of the operator when they're tired on a Friday afternoon and don't want to log any more defects. It's still working for us. So there are a couple of case studies. I probably ran through them fairly quickly, but I'm keen to try and get some conversation around that. So happy to take questions now. We'll move into what's coming up in the future, and then go to questions. Got a very quiet audience. It's unless there's some things going in the chat that I've missed.
Nothing there as of yet, Nick.
Yep. So we'll press on for a bit. The next phase, we're currently in phase 4 of development. So basically, it's an agile project management development cycles. We're in phase 4, which we're looking at the integration into Reflect and the initial integration into Technology One. We're also built a connection to the Shepherd interface in this phase. So the Reflect interface, I'll touch on that because there's a few councils here I see that are involved in that. So I'll pick on Stuart at Midcoast on that. We're looking at getting we've started the integration with the RMCC database. So that's for councils with the RMCC contract. We're in that initial trial phase of that. Stuart's obviously been a guinea pig for that, on us on that. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll start that integration with him. Liverpool Plains Shire Council's the first guinea pig. And so far it looks good. Once we've finished that initial trial with 3 or 4 councils, we'll then be reporting that back through our transport channels to the RMCC powers to be in transport, with the plan to try and get that supported directly from those guys. So we'll keep everyone up to date on how that progresses. The next phase for Reflect will be the local roads databases for the councils that have got a local roads database. And at the same time, we're doing the integration into the Technology One, I think they call it One Road, maintenance management system. Reason why we're integrating to those guys is obviously most councils have got one of those technologies for their financial management. They also use it for their maintenance and asset management to a certain extent. Long term, we're potentially looking at works planning modules or work order management systems that could potentially be a replacement to some of those things. But as I've learned on this project, you have to crawl before you run, and we're just doing one step at a time on that process. The other big piece of work we're doing at the moment is a discovery piece on the natural disaster module. So we've been talking to about 12 or 15 councils over the last couple of weeks. We're talking to the transport disaster recovery teams. We're talking to the RA in regards to how the natural disaster process currently works. Feedback is that sometimes it works. And working out the ways we can improve it. So we're looking for an end-to-end solution from pre-disaster defects all the way through to claims approved and claims managed and claims closed out. So it's fairly blue sky thinking. So far, everyone says yes. Sounds like a really good idea. Happy to participate in it, which has been really great. Once we've finished our discovery piece, we'll then pitch that back to transport with the powers to be at transport, with the plan to try and expand that into an additional module into Asset AI. So you'll have your work order, you'll have your maintenance module, and then you'll be able to have your disaster module be the same data set that's getting collected, and give you some fairly powerful functionality. The other thing we're trying to do is expand with more councils. So if there's any councils here today that we haven't spoken to or haven't signed up to the platform, please reach out to either Josh, Will, or myself, and we can start making that happen. We're keen for as many new people over the next few months as possible. We've got a target of about 17 and we're sitting at about 12 or 13 at the moment. That was to the end of this phase, which is October. So there's still time to fill those spots if you're keen. Then from about October through to December, we've got another short phase of development, which is looking at, sorry, Will, you got a question?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to mention, I'm just about to put in the project page again to the chat. So if anyone would like to book a demo so they can see one-to-one what the program looks like, and I guess ask any of those questions that might be specific to their council, they can do that there. So that's in the chat for anyone that's interested.
Thank you. That's probably much more reliable than Josh and my email addresses. So thank you. Phase 5, we're looking at getting more data suppliers. So the idea there is we're a vendor agnostic platform. So we're looking at as many different camera providers that want to do AI technology to come on board, but also sensor data. So the Compass IoT data that we touched on at the beginning is telemetric data from private vehicles, and there's lots of different other sensor data or non-visual data that could be used. So always looking for new ideas around that. Hopefully we'll be into the building and testing of the natural disaster module with our council partners. So that's more around getting the next stage of a disaster module working, whether that's just from the council side and transport side, it depends on how that looks. And then trying to build out the amount of councils that we've got. So the reason why we're pushing for more councils to be onboarded is this platform is built for road authorities or councils to use by councils. So the more councils that get involved in the development phases, the more understanding we've got of what you actually need, as opposed to a bunch of software engineers sitting in the background and punching it out and telling you that's what it is. We actually try to get you involved in the process so we can tailor the platform to what actually people want to see. And then future phases, we're in discussions with road safety guys in transport about whether we can expand this data set to a road safety module, and touched on the work order management plans. And as Will said, any chat want a demo, there's a link there. And then long-term blue sky thinking from our perspective is much to transport's discussed. We want to go interstate and get this platform rolled out across across Australia as well. So press the right buttons. Shouldn't let me drive these things. So yeah, that's my my spiel. Josh, have I missed anything?
No, I think you've touched on most of the main points we wanted to cover today, Nick. I certainly to build off of some of the stuff that Nick said there. The consultation is ongoing with that natural disaster module, and we've had some really good engagement with councils to date, but also from the transport reps. And it's been quite interesting just to see that some of the frustrations councils are feeling with regard to that process is also shared by the transport reps. So I think they're just sort of seeing it from the other side, but both parties are in heated agreement that the current system isn't working. So the kicker there is getting RA involved, and they've obviously been pretty distracted with what's happening up on the mid-north coast. But we've had some discussions to get them on board, and I had a chat with one of their directors last week who made it pretty clear that they don't want to reinvent the wheel. And so, they're going to be taking over DRFA from October this year is our understanding. But, they don't have the time or resources to sort of put into building a whole new system. So I think there's an opportunity there to leverage off the work that we've been doing and try to create that streamlined process, at least at the state level. It's not going to address the issues that are happening with NEMA at a federal level, but at least if we can, jump through a couple of those hoops and streamline it within New South Wales, that might lead to more timely responses from disaster claims moving forward. And the only other one I guess I would touch on, Nick, and this is a little bit unofficial, so I'll be careful what I say here, but there, I think, is a growing understanding within transport that, providing this outside of New South Wales is going to have to move to a commercial model, but as much as possible, we're pushing to make sure that within New South Wales, it remains either a no-cost or a low-cost option for councils who want to get on board into the future. And I think Transport support that in the view that they want to see councils use that this resource. They want to see councils invest in it. And so, at the moment, there is no charge. I can't guarantee how long that'll remain like that, but certainly what I'm hearing is it'll probably stay that way for at least another 12 plus months. So, we can sort of, this is your chance to get on board and have a play and help us shape the development of this thing moving forward. I think it'd be worthwhile pursuing.
That's a good point. The fact that the platform doesn't cost anything at the moment gives councils a good opportunity to try it. There is a cost to councils in their data collection, but this is a good segue to get the support from senior management to be able to invest in that trial of a camera or two and get moving. Like I know there's a few councils that have got a road network that needs probably 3 to 6 cameras, but are only starting with 1 camera just so they can feel their way into it. There's other councils that have just gone the whole hog and got the 6 cameras up front. Everyone does things differently, which is fine. But I think the kicker is you don't have to listen to the camera salesman that wants you to buy 6 cameras. You can just get 1 camera and try a portion of your network and start rolling it out.
Yeah, there's also been some discussions amongst neighbouring councils to potentially share cameras across LGAs, and then a couple of the JOs are looking at could they do it at that sort of regional level and share them across their member councils as well. So.
Yeah, and the system's set up so that if you if 2 Council A and Council B have 1 camera, when the camera's driving around Council A, they'll be able to see their data, and Council B will be able to see their own data. You won't have crossover of data. You can even exclude roads within your shire if they're roads that Transport manages themselves that you don't want to see. There's also a way of, if Transport that manage the New England Highway, for argument's sake, through want the data that you've collected, that we can share that with them, or vice versa. If they have the cameras and drive your roads, that data could be shared to them to you as well. So there's lots of different ways the data can be used and shared. The options are endless is the challenge. But I will be disappointed if we don't get any questions. So I'd at least like one curly thing. It's a tough crowd.
It is. Everyone must be having their lunch, Nick.
Check whether these mics are working. Right. Well, if we've impressed you that much that there's nothing to ask,
we got
one. Bit of pressure. Love it. Now I've got to work out how to turn the mic off.
Shahir, I've just enabled your mic if you want to unmute.
Yep. Hey, Nicholas. Hey, Joshua. Actually, I want to ask is that we do have some updated road condition data of our network. So instead of using the new cameras to collect new data, can we integrate that data within Asset AI?
Depends where it's from and depends how old it is. So part of the road condition data you're talking about, I'm assuming, is like the 4 to 5 year old frequency revaluation data that councils get. The idea of the platform is regular inspections, and regular being, well, if it's a garbage truck, it's every fortnight. If it's a road inspection vehicle, it'll be quarterly, is what we're trying to get councils to do on high traffic roads, on their very low traffic roads, if they can do it annually. That shows the best result because it's about change. But as a starting point, if that data has come from one of our providers, then yes, you could push it through. But it can't just come from a provider that we don't have on the platform.
Yep, thanks.
But you're from Weddenshire, are you?
Yep.
Yep. If you want to talk in more detail about that, we can organise a demo and we can explain that in a bit more detail, and work out whether there's a solution there for you if you want.
Yep, no worries. That would be good.
Yep.
Stuart, I saw you had your hand up for a little bit. Did you have a question?
You're still on mute, Stuart, if you're talking.
I didn't have anything there. I just saw the SS come up and thought, oh, that's me. No, it's not me.
No worries.
All good.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, we might wrap it up there. But as Nick mentioned, there are many ways you can get in touch with us about this project. If you are interested, have a look at the website, email Nick, Will, or myself, or you can go to the generic email address which is on the slides there as well. So, but look, thank you all for your time. Nick, thank you very much for presenting. Oh, hang on, we've got a question. Defect
Susceptibility.
modelling, can it be done? Yeah, defect susceptibility modelling, can it be done individually?
Not at this stage. The idea of the model, it's going to get a refresh in about another 6 months, hopefully, in the next phase, where we're going to be pulling through data. We need about a year's worth of defect data from a council to be able to use the council's data. And the idea is once we've got enough councils on the platform across the whole of New South Wales, it should start getting us trends across the whole lot. But it's a good question. And if after the next refresh, the data is not useful across the whole of New South Wales, that might be a direction that data set goes, because refining that data to the extent that it's super useful to a council once we've got a method would be a really easy way to do it.
Just noting that obviously if you're doing that, you're running a separate model for every council. So it's probably something we'd even look at regionally, or, you know, you say you'd have a coastal model and an inland model or a mountain model or something like that. But there's a few different ways you can slice the data.
Definitely an idea. All good.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Nick, for your presenting today. We will send out some information after this for those who attended, and just a quick mention of our July webinar. We'll be looking at the Supervisor's Handbook, which is one of the publications that we produce. We're soon to be releasing an update of that. So the July webinar will focus a little bit on what's been updated and just an overview of that guide. But thanks all for attending. We'll give you 20 minutes of your day back, and hope to see you at some of our future events and activities.
And any other questions, please reach out. Thank you.
Thanks all.